Patricia herself was a peculiar sort, though she didn't think so. In her mind, she was an every woman, the kind of person who could blend seamlessly into a crowd if only she ever wanted to. She was neither tall nor short, with a build that could be described as sturdy, a compliment she once pretended to take well, but secretly resented. Her hair was perpetually escaping from the constraints of pins and clips, a mess of waves that seemed as wild as the woods she frequented. Patricia had always preferred the company of trees to people. Trees didn't ask invasive questions like, "When are you going to settle down?" or offer unsolicited advice about her wardrobe. Trees were reliable. They stayed put, grew at their own pace, and didn't care if you came to visit wearing mismatched socks. Her beloved tree in particular seemed to understand in a way no human ever had. It was a patient listener, offering its branches as a shelter during summer storms and its roots as a perfect perch for her to sit and ponder. The Shawangunks themselves were a fitting backdrop for Patricia's peculiarities. Known locally as the Gunks, this rugged ridge was famous for its dramatic cliffs, where climbers dangled like spiders on threads and hikers marveled at sunsets that could make even the grumpiest souls pause in wonder. But Patricia wasn't there for the views. She avoided the main trails altogether, preferring the quieter corners of the forest, where moss crept over fallen logs, and the air smelled of pine and damp earth. To Patricia, the woods were more than an escape. They were a kingdom, and she was its ruler, all because of this tree.
Down in the valley, moved up from the city. It's a new way of living and I'm trying to get used to it. 1 part blues, half an ounce of an idiot. Ordered a Manhattan and they call me a Cidiot. At first it hurt my feelings, but it's kinda got a ring to it. When you move to the country, they can tell when you're new to it. I'm looking at a place, but I'm trying to keep fitting in. It takes too long to be a local, so for now I'm a Cidiot.
I'm Matt Zucker, and this is Cidiot, learning to live and love life in the Hudson Valley. Welcome to Season 8. Amazing, right? The opening reading was from a story called The Shawongunk Tree by young writer Will Forge in his first book, Hudson Valley Reveries. I thought I would start this season regrounding us all, and at least what was an original motivation for moving to New York to the Hudson Valley. Place, space, nature, beauty, history. I bought Will's book, and after I read a few of the stories, I was really moved, so I called him up to ask about the book and his motivation, his inspiration, and just get more from him.
My family actually has their roots deep in the Hudson Valley. I did some family research, and we got here before the Revolutionary War, and
Oh, cool.
none of us really left. I just really like exploring the area, and I see a lot of the places evoke deep like imagination sense in me. So I just wanted to share that and maybe encourage other people when they explore these areas to also use their imagination when they visit them.
Yeah, that kind of hit me because my whole show is about moving from the city to the country. And the first part of it was really going urban to rural. More recently, I moved to Hudson, so now I'm back in like a town. But it's still new. It's still new, and it's obviously different than New York. So, but I feel like I've lost. What I liked about the book was I was getting back in the mood and remembering that when I first moved here, I was paying more attention to my surroundings and letting my mind wander, which is what I felt like the story. Are they true, or did you make them all up? Like, are there any of them true?
No, none of them are true. They're all just based off of my mind and my experience at those places, but no, they're all fiction. I added the Mohonk story, which is kind of really focused on too much looking into the past and I feel like I made that story because Mohonk, when I'm there, it brings you back to the past in more ways than any place that I've ever visited. And it's really just old history you can feel from that area.
I think I need to get back in the mood of my
Absolutely.
curiosity being in a new place. So
Mhm.
that's where I'm hoping your book is helping, is by re-anchoring with that.
I think that if you really just describe the area, like when I go on certain hikes around here, there's like a certain hollowness to a lot of the mountains around here. When you walk, it sounds like the ground is very hollow. And to me, that just invokes a lot of my imagination, like what could be under my feet. Just that kind of thing really pushes the boundary. And I've never been anywhere where certain things like that, like walking on the ground and hearing the echo, happens. I don't hear that other places, but what that does to your mind, for your imagination, I feel like it's unique to this area.
What do you like about the Hudson Valley so much?
There's a lot of history here with the people too. It goes back a lot farther than a lot of places, just even the buildings. And it seems like you'll be on a road that doesn't really seem important, but then you'll see one of those New York history plaques and you'll know that something cool is tied to this area. Even when it feels insignificant, there's always something connected to it.
And I think I understand why you called it reveries, because
Yeah.
reveries, the definition I think is about your mind wandering, right?
Yeah, and just invoking that sense of just deep imagination and focus, but focus almost on a daydream. You're so caught in the daydream that you're lost in a lot of other stuff, but in a good, positive way, not in a distracting way, but in a healthy way. I want more people to come to the area, and I just want them to appreciate the area that they're coming to.
Thanks, Will. The dictionary definition of reveries is a state of being pleasantly lost in one's thought. I love that. I need that. In the last season, I certainly pivoted the show into a focus on my new home, Hudson, New York, and more of the urban trappings across the area that have given us a new wind 10 years in. And I love that. I'm glad I did it. I'll probably keep doing that. But I also realized I was losing sight of nature and just losing myself in it. Will's book certainly does that. Each story zooms you into a moment and the natural world, mostly on the Catskill side of the river, which I know decently, but not fluently. It's also a bit of history, a taste of historical fiction, too. One point he makes is that this also fosters community and makes it a more welcoming place for newcomers, which I can see, too. Years ago at a bookstore in Rhinebeck, we learned from a bookseller that she would leave messages, little poems, along the woods trail at Mill's Mansion in Stottsburg. The idea was modeled on Edna St. Vincent Millay's quotes at Steeplechase in Austerlitz. Brian and I have been to Steeplechase, and we went back to Stottsburg and found a few of the poems, and it was just amazing, thoughtful, beautiful, and regrounding. And beauty can be closer to home. Our first year up here in Red Hook, living next to two farms, I was just gripped at the sheep next door and the beauty of the flock, herd? I still don't know, moving around together. For this season opener, Will's advice for Cidiots is also mine. Let's appreciate where we're at, think about where we're at, understand the history, and appreciate the story of it. Remember where you are and just lose yourself in it. Not the errand you need to take care of on Saturday, not where you're going to brunch on Sunday, not on your schedule or maybe even the leak on the roof, well, maybe that, but on the view outside, or take a walk outside. Remember my earlier episode, all that turning down roads that you haven't been? I think it's still good advice. Thanks so much for tuning back in and for listening. Much more sights, sounds, and conversations this season. Be sure to subscribe and make sure you get on the newsletter list. And most of all, come visit.
Down in the valley, moved up from the city. It's a new way of living and I'm trying to get used to it. 1 pot poodles, half an ounce of an idiot. Ordered a Manhattan and they call me a Cidiot. At first I hurt my feelings, but it's kinda got her into it. When you move to the country, they can tell when you're new to it. I'm looking at a place, but I'm trying to keep fitting in. It takes too long to be a local, so for now I'm a Cidiot.